Good morning to everybody out there on our January FAB Hangout. My name is Mark Jones, and I'll be your moderator today, coming from lovely gray Seattle. And this Hangout is brought to you by Applied Software's Construction Technology Group, the premier construction systems integrator in North America. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation, so until that point, just hang tight. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat pane. We want to know who you are, where you're located, and why this Hangout interests you. Next slide. This Hangout's being recorded and will be available to you online on our YouTube channel. We will also send you an email following the webinar with a link to the recording. If you haven't already, search Applied Software on Facebook and like our page to receive the latest information and special offers. When you visit our website, asti.com, ASTI.com, there's a complete schedule of upcoming events. Are we, the slides advancing there, Amy? Or is it just me?
It should be showing. Sometimes there's a lag.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing the current slide. Regardless, we have some upcoming webinars, our FAB Hangout in February and our BIM 360 Hangout in March. You can see it on the slide. There we go. The FAB Hangout is Eaton Bus Duct content for Revit plus Evolve updates and improvements. So Evolve is our proprietary product from Applied that is more directed to electrical contractors. And then, of course, the March BIM 360 Hangout. Sync your models to BIM to glue. At the conclusion of the Hangout, there will be a survey pop-up. Please complete the survey to be entered into a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You must complete the survey to be entered into the drawing. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to David Ronson. David, please take a minute and introduce yourself and take it away.
All right, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Let me show my screen here. All right, I'm going to assume everybody can see my screen just fine. If you can't, just yell at me. So we're talking about product information editor and the unconventional uses of it. I saw that on the slide there, and I'm thinking, oh, there's not a lot of unconventional ways to use MapProd, other than the fact of just using it, right? It's one of those features that very easily gets overlooked. And just to give you a quick idea of what MapProd is, I'm going to sketch on my screen here. I'm going to draw a line. So on the left side here, we have the ITMs, okay? On the right side of the screen, we have MapProd. And MapProd is just lines of text, okay? And in the middle here, we have the ID of each fitting. So the ID is what connects the two. You have the ID in the fittings, and you have the ID in MapProd. So when we run a report, we can get information out of MapProd through the ID, okay? If that makes sense to you, and I'll explain that a little bit farther here. When I go into an item, we look at the product list here. You'll see an ID listed for each size, and that's how fabrication is making that connection into MapProd. Now let me go ahead and pull up MapProd so you can take a look at it. There's two ways to get to it. We can go in through the C drive, Program Files, Autodesk, Fabrication 2017, CAD MEP, and MapProd. Okay, this is more or less the way you used to have to get to it, before Autodesk got a hold of it. The other way is through your Start menu. I have Windows 10. If you don't have Windows 10, if you have Windows 7, or I think 8 still works this way, and go to your list here. Unfortunately, it's not listed under Autodesk. It's listed under F, fabrication, and we have the product information editor. There's the product information viewer. It's pretty much the same thing, just one you can make edits and one you can't. So I'm going to launch that up. First thing that happens is I'm prompted to select which configuration I want to view the map prod information for. I'm going to click, if you just have one, you may not get this prompt. I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. All right. So, like I said, this is just more or less a similar spreadsheet of information, and this is all editable. We can click on each entry and make changes. And this ID column here, this is how it's making that connection between the items themselves and the information that's listed for that item. Okay. All right. So, how do we edit map prod? There's a couple ways you can do it. Let's come back here and let's edit this fitting. And I'm going to copy this ID right here. I'm going to come back to my map prod. I'm going to go to Edit, select Find. I'm going to paste in that ID. All right, there, it took me right to that ID. So let's say that for some reason I want this elbow to read, instead of LR, I want it to read long radius. I can make that change right here in the item, okay? And if I'm reporting the map prod entries, I will get elbow 90 long radius instead of LR, okay? So let's go into, I'm going to place that fitting. And I'm going to make a copy of it, and we'll place the, which entry did I edit? Was it the ½ inch? I think it was the ½ inch one that I edited. Let's put in the ½ inch. There we go. All right, I'm going to run a report against this. Now, in our fittings, if you look at the print objects that we're using here, we have product description, item product description. Okay, if I come over here to the left side and I type in product up here on the top left, everything you see here is going to come from map prod. Okay, so oops, let's pull that back up. All those product entries are coming from one of those categories here. Okay, ID, group, manufacturer, product, description, size, everything listed there. So this one is calling the product description. So we're calling from this column here with that print object. Okay, so I should be getting that data when I run this report. I'm going to hit print preview. All right, and I didn't get it. I think it must be a different size.
No, you did a ½ inch. That was in map prod. You did do a ½ inch, man. I think that you need to actually revamp the config. So close out, throw another one in.
No, what you have to do, if you make, basically what happens is when you load the program, it creates a cache of the map prod. Because I edited map prod after I loaded the program, I'm going to save this. Save it on the desktop. I'm going to close CAD completely down, reopen. Has to go back and reread the information in map prod. In the past, unless I was mistaken, I thought that you could update it dynamically, make changes, and then run a report, and it would pick up that information. But after testing this specifically for putting together a presentation here, I found that I had to restart the file in order for those entries to change.
I'd be curious to see if an update from source.
I think I tried that.
Oh, Shauno's popping in here. You didn't
What's
save
he
your
saying?
changes in MapProd.
Oh, genius. I don't know if I think I'm gonna have to restart again.
We'll try it out.
Yeah. Let's try it one more time. I'm glad we have somebody like Sean to point out whether or not I need to save. You'd think you would remember something like that. So while this is loading, because MapProd is just a list of text, I can make that change in MapProd, but what about this next one? And what about the next one? What about, you follow what I'm saying? So I could go in here and I can hit copy, paste, 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 right? That takes a while. So what we can do is we can take that out to Excel and use this Excel features to change that information in mass. Let's get this file loaded first. Better work this time. There we go. Okay, so I've got a long radius spelled out and an LR because I changed that information in MapProd. Sometimes if you own your own database, or maybe you don't own your own database and you've named a fitting, and in retrospect you're like, oh, you know what, that really wasn't the right name for that fitting. If you're using MapProd, you don't need to try to come up with some script to go in and search and replace and all this kind of stuff. You can just go into MapProd and make that change, and it'll be reflected after restarting the model. Okay. So let's go back to MapProd. And what I can do is I can select all of my long-term radiuses here, right-click copy, and I can open Excel and paste, okay? And all those entries come in, pretty slick-like. And I can just grab that, drag it down, select all of this, jump back into MapProd. I believe I have to go all the way down to the bottom. And right-click on this green option down here and hit paste. So when I do that, I only copy 12 cells. So what this is asking me is, okay, so is your database ID in cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. So if these were out of order, I could reorder them with this little interface here. And I can click OK, and it's going to update all those entries for me. Let's go find them again. It's frozen up on me.
Oh yeah.
Technical glitch.
You know you're doing something right when you break it.
I got to go delete that log file. Might as well do this so everybody can watch. Where is the log file? Is the log file going to be in here, or is it going to be in the database?
It's going to be in your database. Just go back, and if you go back and show the message, because it's going to be different for everybody. So
Working database.
Right. So it's going to be in your database, and you'll have a prodinfo.map, and it's a prodinfo.lock. So anytime that you see a log file, whether we're talking product information editor, users, service, any form of a log file, notice that that's a prodinfo.lock. That message, notice David left it open, followed the path. Yours could be, your P drive, server database. Follow that path out. Whatever .map file is being referenced inside of that error, there's a corresponding .lock file. That .lock file needs to be deleted, at which point you can hit retry on your error message, again, whether it's a user or a service.lock, and you'll be able to gain access to whatever you're attempting to gain access to.
So what I'm doing here is I'm pasting in that information again. Okay. I'm going to go back. And we're going to pull that back up. Here we go. All right, so as you can see, it updated that description. It didn't create new entries. It knows that this ID is the same as the ID that I pasted in, so it's going to overwrite whatever information is different in this line. Okay, so it did it for the entire section that we did there. If you are a value pack subscriber, I believe we have a template specifically for that. It's called Table Builder, and what we can do is if you don't have this, it's not that hard to make a table like this, and just paste it in. Okay, and what we can do here is, let's say these are out of order. If you select the header here and then do a copy, come back to MapProd. We're going to paste this in again. Up here you'll see the 1, 2, 3. Onto the right side here you'll see data contains field names. If I check that, you'll see that the field name is populated, and you can marry them up that way. Click OK. Something I found interesting about MapProd was the Edit Groups option. This is another way of creating entries for MapProd. It's kind of difficult, but every entry basically creates a cache. So for grooved here, there's a cache of grooved now in the database. So if I went into Excel and changed grooved to GRV and then came back into MapProd and pasted in that information, grooved would still be cached in the list of install types. Okay, and there's this option here called purge. This will purge that out. So if it's not being used, if grooved isn't being used in this list, then it'll purge it out. Helps you keep your data trimmed down and unnecessary entries. MapProd is not connected to your items. I wish it was, but it's not. The only thing that connects them is the ID. Okay. So if you intend to use MapProd, there's a script on a list of scripts that Darren Young posted on ExtraCAD that can help you build. Basically, it'll scan your library, read the ID, create a group, manufacture, things like that for you. Of course, it won't get manufactured if you don't have an entry for that. And that'll help you get started a lot quicker with building your MapProd. Something I wanted to point out was how this reacts in Revit. So I'm going to pull up Revit here. I'm just going to load in service. What was I using over there? Return.
I believe it was, yeah, chill water.
I'm going to pull in that same fitting. We had a 1/2 inch. Okay. I'm going to jump down here to the schedules, pipe fitting. All right, so you'll see I have elbow 90 long radius. The things that they're giving us access to in Revit, there are a lot of the product entry. You got the product code, the finish, which I believe, where's MapProd? I closed MapProd. All right, so yeah, your finish is coming from here. Short description is source, no. I've got regular description. Yes, this is source description. Short description is for source description. There's also a long description, which you'll see over, it's not on the left side because I'm using it on the right side. There's a long description, and that is that's coming from this column here. Let's see here. Product size, that's pretty self-explanatory here, size. Material, that's self-explanatory. This material column here, it was the short description and the long description kind of got me a little bit turned around which one was which. Okay, so what happens, I'm going to come back here and find that fitting again. What was that ID that I selected? All right. So let's change this back to LR. I'm going to hit save, close. I'm going to save changes, yes. All right, so the AutoCAD workflow would be to make the change, save them in MapProd, and then restart the model. In Revit, you would reload the configuration, and you would think that it would update that information because it's supposed to be reading from the product information. Well, it doesn't. So that's the whole point of me showing you this is just to show you that it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. Basically what's happening is it's creating a cache in the Revit model, and it's staying in the item itself. If I place, let's see here, let's go back to the drawing. I'm going to place another one, and let's go back to the pipe fittings. All right, you'll see that change showed up, but now they're two separate fittings, but they're not really separate fittings, they're the same one. So keep that in mind. And I can't edit it here, there's really nothing I can do about it. So if you make changes to MapProd halfway through a project that you're doing with Revit, you're going to end up with different lists of items, but they're the same. Hope that makes sense. They're different, but they're the same. All right, what else? There's not a lot else to show. Most of it is just editing in Excel. I like to, let me show you this, the suppliers. Let's jump back to MapProd. So a lot of suppliers, they all have their different codes and things like that. So, and in fabrication, you can have another code that you just made up for that item. If you go to Edit and Show Suppliers, you'll see the different suppliers listed here, and for that item we don't have anything listed, but we'll come down here to something that has all of the items. So this is my fabrication ID, which can cross-reference to the UPC number, which cross-references to the manufacturer's code, which cross-references to the OEM code. What's the difference between manufacturer and OEM? I'm sure somebody on the phone can clarify that. And then Harrison. So you got all these different IDs. So when you import a price list from let's say Harrison, Harrison's code is 009AN, right? So it'll update based on that code and then be available to the item through the ID of the item itself. And then we can go back to the information, just go to Edit and Show Information.
And this is more so to the point, you know, whenever let's say you're managing and maintaining a price list, and you're not necessarily directly inside of MapProd. So when you're pasting that price list inside of estimating, you have the option whenever you're pasting it, it says ID maps to, and you can say whether it's the OEM, Harrison, etc., and you can map that code. So maybe your Excel sheet, you know, that you're maintaining your price list with has just the Harrison code. You'll want that code to map to the Harrison code. It'll there look for, that's how it would update. So if you want to pull up that price list just real quick.
The price list?
Yeah, just go into the database costing price list. And you know, update supplier and grab a CSV, or you can even just go down to the bottom of that ancillaries, because you have a, don't you have, no, the very bottom of the table. Scroll down in the table down there.
Oh, down here.
Yeah, right click on that green, and I think you have something from Excel on your clipboard, right? I don't know if you've copied anything else, just hit paste for me. So over there, ID maps to, is it the map database ID? You see that drop down to the right? No, on the right. Yep. So that's where you can select the code. So what's your ID actually mapping to? Is it the ID, or does your price list contain the Harrison code, for example? That's how it can run and do a search based off how you're maintaining your price list.
I like it. If you have another supplier that's not listed, you can create an entry for it, and then you come back and delete a supplier if you want. You can, I'm thinking about something else, never mind. That's about it to have to do with MapProd. There's not a lot really to talk about. Really, the issue is understanding how it can benefit you. And in terms of benefit, I really like, at least with the AutoCAD workflow, being able to make changes to my items on the fly. I don't need to, like I said, in retrospect, a lot of times when you're building database, you can't really foresee down the road that, hey, the way I name this fitting is going to be a problem. And you've got several drawings that have many of these fittings in it, and it keeps showing up on your reports, and then you're having to fix your reports after the fact. You can, if you're using MapProd and you're reporting from the product print objects, then you can come in here and make that change and basically be done with the problem. That's the big benefit that I see. And not to mention the pricing. If you're using EST, you have to use MapProd. Is that a fair assessment, Garrett? Would you agree? If you're using EST?
It's not, I mean, it's a fair assessment based off the consulting perspective. You know, you have so much more reporting flexibility and capability if you're having entries with inside of MapProd. It allows you to pull data that is not accessible, if you're just running a standard price list. So for example, I'm unsure. I've kind of been monitoring the question pane. So pretty much everything from size over, right? You've got material all the way to finish, right? And
Right.
pull up a price list, maybe go to Harrison, and just show, what actually stems from MapProd inside of a price list. When you're updating your product information editor, it allows you everything in gray. So from the right there, it says Harrison over, right? All of that, you will not get that. It will not populate unless you have your product information editor populated with that data. Now that data you can get on a piece of paper. You can report it. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. David, you did talk about the print objects, product description versus item description. Product description is going to give you exactly what you have inside of there. For the product listed pieces, if you're using just item description in your report, you're only going to get a size, right? If you use product description, it's going to pull there. So just run a report, you've got product description in there, right?
Item product description, right.
Right, so, if you had a piece in, that would pull from MapProd. Now, if you just put in item description, it's going to pull the actual name of the entry for that piece. So just throw in a piece there. It's going to be the product listed. No, so description would not pull that.
Come from here.
No, not there. With product listed pieces, just throw a piece in, for example. Let's say that the name of it is 2-inch. It's going to pull that right there. That is the description for a product listed piece.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So if you go run a report, just start a brand new one and put item description. Just start a new report. Put item description and run the report. And it's going to show you that size. Right? So where that's coming from, hit OK, and now you can say product. That's going to show the MapProd, right? Now go back to the fitting, double click there on the item and go to the product list and change 3-inch. So just go to the product list, change 3-inch to webinar, put some text in there. That's what's now going to be displayed on that report because you're using item description. Now, understanding these print objects, it doesn't happen overnight. There is a lot of testing that comes involved with it. Actually, that one didn't change. Go look at the properties of that piece. Did it stay there? There you go, change it there. There you go. I guess once it goes in, it pulls it from there. That's where it's applying it. There you go. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to go change that after the fact. You're going to put it in and then wonder why it's showing 3-inch, and that's where it's pulling from there. So if you were to edit it and then take a new one off, that's when you'd see that text come up inside, description. Yeah.
Let's make the change here. There we go. That's what it's showing up right there.
Right, so it just basically takes that ID, the identifier of the product list, and it throws it in there. Oftentimes I see, on the duck side, you can use item description as long as you're, not product listed. Mainly your round on the duck side is product listed, right? Not the rectangular. So duck guys, they can use description. Source file name, that typically works. But if you're wanting data from MapProd, you have to have that product in there that David showed earlier inside the webinar, or earlier in the presentation.
Do we have any questions, Garrett?
No, there have not been any come in.
Either it's so simple nobody really has questions, or it's so advanced it's just blowing everyone's mind.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is anything advanced. There's not any major tricks. You know, obviously you need to know a little bit about Excel. If you're going to do your editing in Excel, pretty much always do all my map prod editing in Excel first, just because it's so much easier and so much faster to make changes, and then just import those changes into map prod. You know, if you're just making changes to one cell, you know, yeah, obviously that's you don't need it copied into Excel just for that, but usually you're going to be making changes to multiples at a time. I'm not sure how this showed up in here. This is crap. Somebody's going to be reporting that.
Oh, no. Actually, you know, Shawnee O just made a comment, you know, and he made a funny. He said, you guys are just that good. Yeah, no. And then let's see. So we do have an actual question here. Well, there's two.
Okay.
Kevin, I'm going to say Sanu. I'm unsure. Pardon me if I mispronounce your last name. Is there a character limit length for your item ID? That's something that I honestly can't say I've ever tested. I don't think that there's a length. Now, you would want to keep it manageable. You don't want something that is 1,000,000 characters long. But David, put a new entry in and just throw it in, man. Just keep going. Just keep putting 11111, and let's test that live real quick.
Josh said there is not a limit.
No character limit. Yeah, I just put in a whole bunch. I can't imagine you'd want more than
So plus 108.
to 108 power.
Right.
Yeah. Can't imagine.
I didn't think that there would be, but again, you know, from our perspective, you would want to keep that manageable. You would so that way, you know, pretty much even in length. You know, if one is 12 characters long, you know, maybe you have your company name as a beginning, you know, so
Prefix.
you could, yeah, prefix. You could have your company, you know, initials, and then you don't necessarily have to have a dash. You know, it's so customizable. That's the benefit here. As long as you know what that code is and you're comfortable with that convention of naming your IDs, then you can manage and maintain that price list for years to come. Josh Cravens, can you hire me to do everything for you? We could talk about that, man. We could talk about that. Kevin, if I'm pretty sure that answered your question, but if you're comfortable, just give me a, you know, yeah, we're good. That your question was answered there. All right. He said I'm good. All right. Josh said.
I think we're good to go. I don't know what else there is to cover, unless we got more questions.
I'm looking here. I'm going to start to go through and get rid of the ones that are not there. No. All right. So I think that we're okay. Let's see. Oh, Josh. Oh. Anybody else have any questions here? I'm monitoring the page.
Josh.
What happened, Mark?
I said anybody besides Josh.
Oh no, Josh can ask as many questions as he wants, man.
You may not get them answered, but you're welcome to ask.
Josh is used to getting ignored.
Okay, well, anything else? Any other questions, guys, before we filters in
I
the
think we can wrap it up.
Okay. Well, first thing I wanted to mention is thank you guys all for plugging into today's Hangout. We are going to be at booth N11320. You can see it on your screen next week at the ASHRAE convention in Vegas. So myself, Scott Hendricks, and our GeoShack partner. So if you guys or anybody from your team is going to be there next week, we'd love to have you guys come by and talk shop with us. Other than that, there's going to be a survey that will pop up. Please complete the survey to be entered into the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You must complete it altogether to be entered into the drawing. It only takes a few seconds to complete. So that's
Mark,
a wrap. Yeah.
Mark, before we jump off, Luis had a question. Sorry that your webinar started late. I can't tell you the exact time that it will be posted on YouTube. I would just suggest monitoring our channel. I can get with marketing and verify. Typically they're up by, for example, the beginning of next week they should be up. I think we get them recorded and get them uploaded relatively quickly.
I've seen them show up within 2 hours.
Within 2 hours? Well,
yeah.
Just to be safe, I want to give myself some time there. They should definitely be up by next week. And
Luis will also be getting an email with the link, the recording as well.
Okay. Yeah, so that we started doing blasts that it's been uploaded. Well, there you go. Once it's uploaded, Luis, you will get a link.
Yep. All right. That concludes today's FAB Hangout for January. I appreciate you all for joining us, and I hope see you guys back on in February. Thanks, guys.